Here are the differences between manuals and nose manuals. Make sure you like and subscribe. Let's get to it. To do a nose manual, you need control of your hips, your head, and your weight placement, meaning how much you are driving yourself forward onto the nose of the board. To initiate a nose manual, we're gonna be placing our head pretty much over the front trucks, which requires you to lean forward into it. Once you get your head over your front trucks, then you can really start the nose manual. This is different than a regular manual because on regular manuals, instead of leaning back over the back trucks, I like to say, push your board forward underneath you to get those trucks under your head. So the goal is the same, but the way we get there is a little bit different. Once you get your body into a good position and you're ready to start the nose manual, I want you to first be aware of your hips. It's all too common in nose manuals or manuals in general that as soon as you pick up one truck, your hips start flying around, trying to make a billion adjustments every second to somehow force your manual to stay in the air. I assume what's gonna happen is as you lean over it, you get everything into position, then you pick up your back leg to initiate the manual, that your hips will fly forward, and then you'll be sitting over the back truck. How your hips affect your balance in a manual is very confusing at first. But if you think about it like this, it's quite simple. My upper body weighs a lot. So if I remove my hips out from underneath my upper body, now all the weight of my shoulders is gonna be driving into the ground. You might think if I put my hips forward, I'll be leaning more forward, but it's just not how it works. Watch, you can see it in action. I'm leaning forward, I'm gonna start the nose manual, then if I push my hips forward, now my upper body, boom, crashes everything into the ground. At first, it's gonna feel opposite, like, okay, if I want to keep my back trucks in the air, I have to push my hips a little bit towards my back trucks, which feels like a weird way of thinking about it. So instead of moving my hips around to balance, I try to keep them still and focus on small changes in my upper body to go the direction I want. If I want to lean more forward, I can lean my upper body a little bit more into the nose manual. If I want to lean more back, I can pick my upper body up and start to move it that way. Ultimately, it's up to you. Moving your hips and moving your upper body essentially accomplish the same thing. But generally, people can't feel their hips, and it's hard to make a subtle adjustment in a manual just by moving them around a little bit if you don't know where they are to begin with. Comparing these adjustments to a regular manual, your upper body won't have as much of an impact on a regular manual as it does on a nose manual. I think since we're leaning forward into it, we'll get this natural shape where we're starting to lean a little bit forward, and you'll be able to feel how much that little bit of tilt really affects the amount of weight on your front foot. In a regular manual, it feels like a much more stable and flatter body position, more similar to like a regular squat, where a nose manual might be more like a hinge. Once you get your manual position dialed, it works to try to keep your shoulders over your hips, over your feet. You don't really want this hinge forward. Let's think about it like this. All of the adjustments in terms of your balance point will be between the bolt that is holding on the wheel and the back of your wheel. As you lift the nose in the air, your balance will shift off of the truck and into the wheel. And as you lift the nose more and more, you'll be balancing further back on the wheel. If your balance ever gets outside of this small section, then you will either hit the ground or your front wheels will be on the ground. So you have like, I don't know, I haven't measured it, about like a half an inch of adjustments to make that will make or break your manual. And for a nose manual, you're gonna be balancing in this section between the front bolt and the front of the wheel. As you pick your tail up into the air, your balance will be over this small section of that front side of your wheel. Once you understand that you're balancing over a small portion of either wheel, then it becomes intuitive to say, we want to keep our adjustments small but effective. So if you find yourself throwing your body around to try to make these big adjustments, obviously you're going to slip out of that very small balance zone. It's easier to do a manual when your wheels have the ability to roll back and forth. So think about it like this. If you are in a crack and you can't move your wheels, you have to balance perfectly over that spot and never fall out of it. But since your wheels can move, in a nose manual, if you start to fall forward, you can push your board forward to keep it underneath you. And if you start to fall backwards, you can pull your board backwards to keep your wheels right underneath you. If you've ever been on an Indo board, you know that from the black cylinder underneath the little board, it rolls around to keep you balanced. If that thing was locked into place and you started to fall forward, you'd have no way to save it. But the benefit that our wheels roll around is you can move them around underneath you to hold your manual. The reason you haven't realized this yet is because if you're rolling forward and you adjust your wheels backwards underneath you, you're still rolling forward. So you don't actually see the wheels rolling both directions. Even though when you're doing a manual, this exact thing is happening all the time, where those wheels relative to your body are moving both directions, but you just can't see it. If all four wheels were on the ground, here's what this adjustment would look like. And you could practice this yourself. Hop on and just shift that board forward and backward. As you shift it forward, and you're doing a regular manual, your nose will get really light and be really easy to lift it in the air. As you shift your board backwards, now your nose is going to be heavier. It's going to be harder to hold it in the air. The same goes for a nose manual. It's just the opposite. When you shift that board backwards underneath you, now your tail gets really light and it's easy to put your nose all the way to the ground. Vice versa, if it's way in front of you. I think you can figure it out. There's no way around it. To do a manual, you're gonna have to lift a leg into the air, right? To do a nose manual, you lift your back leg. I want you to play with how much you're lifting your leg into the air and try to get a feel for how that helps or hurts your balance, okay? We call this a matchup. Everyone will have different matchups for what balance point works for them. I tend to try to push my trucks towards the ground while I'm holding it in a manual. This lets me pitch myself more forward, and I feel like I have more control as I'm further into the manual and I got all this room to play. Some people like to sit more centered over the truck and lift their back leg higher into the air and do a steeper nose manual. I'm gonna try to convince you why the way that I do it is more favorable. And that's because I feel like being able to lean further into the nose manual is a positive, because I have a wide range where I can balance. Where if you are holding your trucks really high into the air, then you don't have as much of a range within the manual. Also, once you're in the manual and you're able to push your foot towards the ground and hold it, then that leaves you room to pop and do flip tricks and all this stuff. Especially when you get real strong in your manuals, this pushing motion on your foot feels like it just locks the manual into place, and you avoid this business where that board is moving around a lot. Boom, and you can just lock it into place and it'll just stay there forever. When you want to turn in a manual, you can simply stand on the heel side to turn front side and toe side to turn back side. This will help your nose fall to the direction that you want to start skating in. It's very intuitive and simple because it's much like a tic-tac or just turning in general. But it starts to get a little bit tricky when you're doing a nose manual and want to turn. You control the direction that you're going by moving your tail where you want it. If I want to turn front side, I can move my tail out in front of me to start turning this way. It's like driving a car in reverse. The reason it's tricky is because if I start leaning on this front side, that can drag my tail the wrong way and make it harder to turn that direction. This is a general rule of thumb. You have some room to play, but just pay attention that when you lean front side, you might have to actively keep your back trucks moving the direction you want to keep that rotation going. And you can treat it like you're trying to snake around using your back foot to control your direction. So if I wanted to do a snake in a nose manual, I could pull my back foot behind me to turn backside and then push it out in front of me to turn front side. This is just a little different than the classic strategy of treating it more like a regular tic-tac. Once you get your balance point down for nose manuals, you can just turn your front foot forward over your front trucks and try it with one foot. Those are the key differences between a nose manual and a regular manual. As always, thank you for watching, and make sure you click one of these two videos so you know what to work on next.